Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. I am the Gerbil. I picked a heck of a week to go on vacation. Yeah, I've been in Beijing for the last 5 or 6 days. 6 days, I guess. Got back yesterday. Went to the Great Wall of China, went to Universal Studios, which I have to admit in Beijing is an amazing theme park. One of the coolest I've ever been to. But I know you're not here to talk about my vacation. You're here because you're curious about my take on Relic Delta and the upcoming Relic 10 that's coming. Now, this has been talked about ad nauseum by everybody, like literally everybody. And I have not had an opportunity to talk to you about my thoughts and to share some of the feedback and things I'm hearing. Now, straight up, first things first, I was not invited to Capital Games testing server. Now that said, I do talk regularly to a lot of community members, including several people who are in that testing server. So while I don't have firsthand, I can tell you a little bit about some takeaways I'm getting from the information that's being shared with me through multiple avenues and different servers and channels and whatever. So I'm not going to speak on behalf of anybody but myself. I'm not going to share any information that's private or that is not allowed to be shared directly from the source, meaning anybody who signed an NDA or whatever. I'm not going to try to break that or anything. Instead, what I want to do is give a little bit of thought, and then I'm going to share a little bit of data that I think tends to paint a different picture than some of the perspectives that have been shared. So let's start off by just reminding, if you have not heard of Relic Delta, then you've absolutely been asleep. Basically, Capital Games gave us this very, very, very long, I think very misguided discussion about why they were introducing Relic Delta to the game. They talk about a problem that I do agree exists, and then they give some potential solutions, and then they hone in on Relic Delta and the introduction of Relic 10 as their solution to the problems. Now, I'm not going to talk about what the problems are. The problems are many. There's quite a lot of problems that they're trying to address in this kind of one-stop or one sweeping change. Now, I'm going to caveat this actually and say very clearly also that I think that Relic Delta is wholly unnecessary. I do not like it as a concept. I think that if you want to incentivize players for gearing them higher, as Capital Games says, investing in the characters, then I think two things need to happen. One, it needs to be easier to gear them up. So like if we look at my roster, for example, my account is 13.8 million. I'm almost 13.9. And if we sort by Relic Amplifier level, which is a new thing in the game, believe it or not, for you younglings, didn't used to be able to do this. You can see I have quite a few Relic 9 characters. What is this? 6 in a row, and I got 1, 2, 3 rows, 4, 5 rows, almost 6 rows, 6 times 6 times 5 is 30, so I got 29 Relic 9 characters. And yeah, you'll see all my Gungans are there and my Ewoks are there because I like playing for the fun rather than just chasing the meta always. Now, at my level in the game, it's pretty easy to chase the meta. Like, I pretty much have everything, and, I can hoard materials and things. And so, there's so many things that are just simply I don't need, right? And this is part of the problem that Capital Games is facing. So, like, for example, my account here, I have 1,500 Chirotech shock prods, right? Like that, I'm not hurting for resources. And that's part of the problem, as I was saying, that at some point you have sufficient investment and sufficient resources for investments. Like, I could always use more signal data, but it's kind of hard for them to continue to monetize and sustain the game's development. So what they're doing is they're introducing Relic 10, which pushes the increments a little higher, and they're introducing the Relic Delta. Now, the first thing I'm going to say about Relic 10 is like that's a duh. Like, I think everybody expected that. I don't think anyone's really upset about that, except that what I will say is that Capital Games says that too many players are not investing in Relic 9 because they don't see the benefit out of it. I don't actually think that's true. I think I see a lot of benefit out of Relic 9, especially on tanks, because that's what it's optimized for. However, I would say the biggest reason that you know, I don't invest more into Relic 9 is because it's too hard to get to Relic 9. Even with my surplus of resources, I only have 29 Relic 9-ish characters if my crap math was correct. And that's because it is darn near impossible to develop a steady stream of these droid brains. It doesn't matter whether I want to invest in Relic 9 or not. I simply cannot invest in them. It is not a matter of desirability. It is a matter of accessibility. And so I'm going to have to call BS on Capital Games for that first point. So introducing Relic 10 to compound on top of this is a natural progression that I think we can all expect. Unfortunately, while they are saying that they're going to make Relic materials more accessible, unless they make the Relic 9 materials like way more accessible, I simply don't see Relic 10 solving that problem. If it's out of reach, it's simply out of reach. Okay, now this comes to the second problem here, that the Relic Delta, I'm sure you know by now, what it means is that the difference between your Relic and the opposing Relic, whether it's in Grand Arena or it's in player versus environment like territory battles, whatever, the character with the highest Relic, not the team, but the individual character with the highest Relic is going to have an advantage in terms of damage they deal versus damage that they receive, right? And the scale, I don't have the chart here. I really should have looked it up. But the chart, last time I saw it, had a delta of 5, meaning if your character is plus or minus up to 5 relics, it will do 60% more damage after damage is calculated, or it will do 60% less damage if you have a deficit of relics. So if you are Relic 1 and your opponent is Relic 6, for example, when you swing and hit, you'll do 60% less damage after damage is calculated. Now that's a huge penalty. And what I haven't heard anyone else talk about is the struggle with Relic Delta in and of itself is that by increasing the number of Relic levels, you increase the potential range for that. Like right now, the Relic Delta range goes from Relic 0, which is Gear 13, up to Relic 9. So you have, effectively, you have 10 levels, right? Because if you count 0 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that 0 is the 10th. You have a spread of 10. By adding Relic 10, we now have a spread of 11, increasing the likelihood of having a difference in Relic levels when you engage into a player versus player experience. So for players who invest in Relic 10, they are going to be, especially if they are buying, right? If it is not freely accessible, if it is pay to play, they are all but ensuring a +1 relic difference or Relic Delta. Delta, by the way, if you are, if you did not know, the word Delta, it does not mean, you know, well, it's represented in math as a triangle, and it means the difference, the change between A and B, right? It's also in business and stuff. It means the difference between, just in case you were curious why they're saying delta. No, it's not the Greek letter for D or delta. It is literally meaning the difference between. And I think that's why they use delta for D for difference. Anyway, we're off topic. So for players who are able to acquire Relic 10 quickly, they are going to be increasing the delta between them and everyone else. Whereas right now at Relic 9, even though it's a 4-year-old relic level, it is something that is accessible, though incredibly hard. So unless they make that 9 way easier, this delta gets bigger, and thus whoever does not have the R10 is going to be at a substantial difference. Now, Capital Games did some funky math that I am unable to find. I did watch Arnold, and I watched Scribe, and I'm pretty sure I watched Nooch all talk about it. And somewhere in this post, I swear that Capital Games said that they've done the math and found that there was only a 3% difference across the GAC from attacker defender with regard to relic levels. In other words, they're claiming that approximately 97% of the time, if I understood that correctly, again, I've been on vacation for the last week, so I haven't been able to verify all the data, but that that 97% of the time that the player base are basically having a equal level attacking and defensive team with regard to relic levels. Now I call BS on that also. And this is where I want to bring in my own spreadsheet. So I did some number crunching. Now I looked back at my own GAC history. I looked at this of week 3 of the recent 5v5 where I went 3-0, and I looked at this event where I went 0-3. And I'm just going to show you one of them. I looked at both my own and I looked at the opponent's attacks, right? So what I did is I went in here and I copied this data. So you can see battle 1 to 11, meaning each of these battles in order. And I took my own relics. So we've got Seer starting here to relic 7, 5, 8, 8, 7. And I plugged that in, 7, 5, 8, 8, 7. Then I put my opponent's relic levels here, 7, 7, 5, 4, 7. I looked at the average relic of my own versus the average relic of them, and the difference is 1. Now, I'm pretty sure that is exactly what Capital Games did to determine that 3% margin of difference. Now, at a relic delta of 1, basically what that means is your squad, if I remember correctly, is going to do 12%, I think, less damage, or 15 if you are below, and 12 or 15% more above. I don't remember, maybe 10, I don't know. Several people have the chart. It's on Reddit, it's on everywhere, Discord, but that's going to change. Capital Games has not given us the final answer. So the actual number doesn't matter. The point is, the higher the relic difference, the more damage you will do for, or be unable to do based on that difference. Now, in this case, simply averaging it though, which I think is exactly what Capital Games did, paints a very, very, very misleading picture. And here's why. So the average difference, if you look strictly at the average difference of the averages is 1 relic level. My team had an average of 7. My opponents had an average of 6 in battle 1. That's 1 relic difference. However, Capital Games also said that relic delta will be determined on an individual character level. So what that means is this relic 8 character and this relic 8 character, these two right here, these are going to do a crap load more damage to these 2 characters, and these 2 characters are barely going to be able to scratch these 2. That alone negates 90% of potential strategy, I think. It basically means that this relic 4 character ain't going to do much of anything. It's going to become a support, handing out buffs, debuffs, whatever, but it is not going to be able to do the damage necessary to win. So what is the relic advantage I have? What is my max relic advantage in each battle relative to my opponent? Well, that's the next column over here for O. So what I did is I took the maximum of my scores, like my team has the maximum level, and I subtracted the minimum over here to find out the maximum delta. So I have an example in battle 2, I have 99579. I attacked a 7775, which means that I have a relic delta here between the 9 and the 5 of 4. 4 relic diff. Now, in the first iteration, that was 95% differential in damage, which is just stupid. Then Capital Games changed it. It was 60%. I haven't heard if they've changed it later. But that basically, again, means that this character right here, whoever that is, that bold italicized 5, can't do crap. I mean, it can hurt my own character here, but it's going to do nothing to the 3 relic 9s. So while the average difference, yet again, of these 2 squads, while the average difference here is 1, the actual delta is 4. And then where I have a disadvantage is I have a character of a 5 versus all these 7s. I took my lowest scoring character, compared to their highest scoring, and that showed me my disadvantage. So over here, these 2 columns, O and P, these represent the actual delta on a character by character level. What is the maximum difference in an advantage I have, meaning where I have higher relics versus where my opponent has higher relics? And you can see very quickly an average of 1 when you just look at the whole team versus a relic delta of 4. Now, again, there's so many things we don't know. Are they rounding up? Or are they taking the strict difference, right? For example, my team here in Battle 2 averaged 7.8. Theirs was a 6.6, right? How are they rounding? Are they doing a standard 0.5 and up, like 0 point whatever to 0.4999 rounds down and then 0.5 rounds up? And then, you know, because the data they've shared is based on whole differences, whole relic deltas, 1 difference, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if it's a rounding thing, it can get extremely bad at other times, right? Now, I'll show, there's, let's see, here's an example though, like where I won with Battle 8. I won here with an all Relic 5 squad, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. These are all Relic 5s. Obviously my Relic average is 5. My opponents are 7, 8, 8, 7, 7. Relic Delta difference, the average difference is -2, right? They are 2 relics ahead of me, in other words. This is where I have a disadvantage, and yet I still won this match. In the upcoming system, you know, if that rounded up to, if they just calculate the difference as any decimal up, then that would be a relic differential of 3. And I probably absolutely would have lost that battle. I just simply would not have been able to do enough damage. And everything they hit me with, especially these 8s, we can hit a lot harder going back. Now, further, I think further great examples is like if you take round 2, right here, where I go in with a single relic 8 character, it's going to be at a very big disadvantage, especially if it's like a Bane, right? Like Bane does an insane amount of damage. This is a Bane squad right here. This is going to be Bane and then probably my Sith Empire Trooper. Sith Empire Trooper is going to die one way or the other, probably. And then that leaves me with a Relic 7. Now, if I'm up against like Relic 9 characters, we got a Relic diff of 2. Is he still going to be able to win? Probably not, right? He's probably just not going to be able to do that difference. But anyway, so the point is that as I look at the average difference, and if you just strictly average it, Capital Gains said that the average, only 3%, I believe, of all the battles across GAC had a relic difference of 2 or more relics. And again, I call it complete BS on that. Because here I got 11 battles, and we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those 11 have a relic difference, strictly averaging it, of 2 or higher. And then if you look at the relic advantage, again, my max to their minimum, of those 11, 8 of them have a relic advantage character of 3 or greater. Like, that's insane. Like, this one has a relic advantage of 6, right? Even coming down here to battle 3, round 3. Okay, this is my 3rd round. I have a relic advantage against my opponent. Oops, that one should not be. Oh, well, I'll fix that one later. I'll do it now while we're live on stream. Although I'm not streaming, am I? Okay, there we go. So in this round 3, I did lose 2 battles, so I've got them in red here. So you can see where I lost. This one, I will say I probably would not lose under the current relic difference delta system that's coming up, because I went in with a relic 78777. I have an average relic difference of 2. I have a maximum delta of 3, and I absolutely have no deficit. The disadvantages only matter if it is a negative number, right? So like here, these zeros, I'm going to zero out everything that's positive. There we go. So these negatives are only where I have a difference. Like we can see here in this bottom squad. This character right here is a relic 7 on my opponent's team. My highest relic was a 5, so I am 2 relics behind, okay? So no matter what, look at these relic differences, these deltas. And this is in individual cases, right? 3, 4, 4, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 3, 4, 4. 3% CG is BS, which makes me wonder if it was on this page and they've removed it. I have no idea. I really have no idea. Could be on another post somewhere. So how are they calculating that difference? I really have no idea. But what this does tell me, and this is really, really important to think about, is if you, under the upcoming Relic Delta system, if you are putting low relic squads on D, like this battle 3 right here, look at this. We got 5555, 5555, 5355, 55575, 55555. That's high for a lot of players. I understand that. Like if you're down in the carbonite or rhodium, whatever, these are still high relics relatively. I mean, there's no shame whatsoever in this, but I'm in Kyber 2. And what I'm saying is that in the Kyber 1, 2, 3 level, these are not going to be good enough. Because when a character goes in with a relic diff of 4, 3, 5, 4, 4, they're just probably going to walk all over it. There's almost like the days of holding in a low relic squad is probably going to be close to 0 for a lot of people. Like, and I know also, like, as you go into the lower tiers of GAC, you have less squads that are required to be put on defense. Like in Kyber 1, 2, 5v5, I think you have 4 squads on defense. 4-4-3, which is why you can full clear at 11 battles. But you're basically like, if you fill your defense with low relic squads, as this person mostly did right here relative to our position in game, then you're going to be basically just giving away those spots. And that's really unfortunate. So what I'm really terrified is that despite Capital Gains math, when I look at my own math, when I look at the summation of 3 different weekly rounds, or 3 different rounds from the week, like this is 9 matches. Each match had 11 to 15 battles. So that's a little bit over 100 battles that I've looked at. Offense and defense, it's about 200 battles. I know that statistically that's insignificant, but nowhere in there did I find anything that looked really balanced in terms of relic advantage, min-max, or disadvantages. In every case, pretty much, unless I took like, and I don't even really see one. Like here's one that's pretty balanced. See, look how this one is a 0. This one is really noteworthy. 75887, average relic 7. 79377, average relic rounds to a 7. Relic average difference 0. According to Capital Games, that's balanced. But because I have an 8 I have a 5 and they have a 9, or I have an 8 and they have a 3, the relic difference here is up to 5. My 2 8s might get through that 9. That 3 will not get through my 8s. And that is not how I want this game to go. Like, this is really disappointing. I think Arnold, if you haven't watched his streams, he's been talking about Relic Delta as a metaphor for we're all driving along in a car and everyone's having a great time playing SWGOH and Capital Gains is at the wheel. And they're like, hey, wouldn't it be more fun to crash into that wall at 95 miles an hour? And then we've negotiated it down to 60. I feel like that's really pretty accurate to where this is going. Now, is this going to kill SWGOH? No, it's not. People are still going to play. We will adapt. And I will say that if they do make relics indeed easier to come by, then this actually could theoretically be a good thing when we are able to relic these people easier and faster. That could be a good thing. The fact that you can also now relic characters at low star really helps also. Like you could probably, relic 5 somebody at 5 stars or whatever the cap is, and mitigate a lot of the relic differences. That said, you can't get to these relic 7, 8, 9, 10s with a 4, 5, 6 star character. It has to be star 7. So they're still going to put you at a guaranteed disadvantage against opponents with a higher star relic level. I will also add that while I firmly dislike the Relic Delta system, I can understand if there is a smaller spread. Like 60% differential in damage, I think is too much. And I think it just simply is masking the real problem that if you want characters to invest at higher relics, then make the relic itself more impactful. And I know that is challenging. I know that there are cases where simply more damage doesn't cut it. But if, for example, each relic level added, 5 speed, or if the relic levels added additional armor, or there are ways to do it. And I think that a great example is like of how this really can help out a lot is already in a bunch of characters. And we're seeing it actually more and more, but I think Capital Gains has experimented with it and they just don't like the outcome. So I think the way I feel that this should be done is not through Relic Delta, but for example here, this is Temple Guard. For each Relic Amplifier level, Temple Guard gains an additional 5% critical avoidance and 10% defense. These values are doubled while he has critical avoidance up. So for example, he's Relic 9. He's already going to gain 45% critical avoidance and 90% defense. Doubled if he has crit avoidance up. So he will gain 90% critical critical avoidance, and 180% defense. So by baking it into the kit, I think Capital Games has a much better opportunity to provide a meaningful incentive to upgrade. Right now, Relic's pretty much just focus on a couple of things. A little bit of health, a little bit of protection, and pretty much damage. That's like really it. I mean, yes, depending on the mastery, some impact crit avoidance, some impact armor, but these are such negligible differences. I mean, come on, look, if I take, this is Ithkoth, if I take him from Relic 5 to 6, his armor increases from 9.4 to 11.2. Wow. Like, oh my God, don't break the bank. 1.8 difference. Remember how I just showed you, like 1.8, I just showed you Temple Guard, 180 versus 1.8. Literally, that's a magnitude, that's a functional delta of 100%, not 100%, 1,000% difference. No, more. It's 100 times the difference. Oh my gosh. Math, tired, vacation. So they've simply just made relics with, honestly, incremental, insignificant advantages, except for some cases where they are actually a bit broken, like Ezra, Exile X, or Ezra in Exile, where he basically just, he dodges everything, right? Or Slicker, at some point he's siphoned so much you just can't do anything to him. Yeah, so there are cases where the relic system by itself is kind of broken, but I think that there's a lot of ways that this could be fixed with a lot less damage than just a blanket, hey, if you have a differential in relics, you're going to do an insane extra amount of damage or an insane minimum amount of damage to somebody. So anyway, folks, that's my take. I'm going to keep it pretty simple right there. I am very much open to the idea, if the numbers as CG is presenting them drop considerably. I do not believe that Relic 10 will incentivize anybody to push to Relic 9 or higher, because I don't think it addresses the core problem, which is accessibility. And I don't think that this Relic differential is accurate for what we're really seeing, right? Again, like this Battle 4, like, where is it? Let's go back over here. This Battle 4, right? I mean, they have an equal average relic, but I have a differential of +5. And then they have a differential of 4, depending on the perspective, right? That Relic 3 is just dead weight. These 2 8s and that 9 are all that really matter on those two teams. But who knows? We'll see. We'll see. I'm not abandoning game out of this. I'm willing to give it a try. I hope Capital Games will be willing to start small and ratchet it up if need be, or if they start high, will be listening and willing to tone it back real quick if this is a disaster. I'm crossing my fingers and I'm going to let time see what happens here. And I encourage you to do the same. Don't everybody throw your arms up and go, Armageddon, Armageddon. I've actually seen a lot of that. And I know I'm going to get some real blowback in the comments below. I have nothing to do with Capital Games. They do not speak to me. I do not speak to them. I have absolutely no contact whatsoever with them. I would love to give them my direct feedback and commentary. So I hope they're watching this. But the fact is, change is always scary. That's just a reality for anybody in any situation. Change is scary. It triggers things in our brains that we don't like. So changing our source of entertainment in and of itself is a scary thing. So let's cross our fingers, speak your mind. At the end of the day, let's recognize that the Capital Games is going to do what Capital Games wants for this game. And let's give it a try and see how it goes. But speak your mind until then, especially, and after, right? If it comes out and you love it, say you love it. If you hate it, please let them know, right? Reach out through their official forums. Send them an email. There is a contact somewhere. You can contact Electronic Arts instead of Capital Games directly. Reach out on Reddit, post. Go to the big YouTube content creators. They've each got their own Discords. They do surveys. Those surveys do go to Capital Games from time to time. Do those surveys. Give your feedback. Make your voice heard. Again, you got to speak up, but at the same time, remember, keep in mind, this video game is not a democracy. It's absolutely not, right? They will do what they want. Anyway, folks, I hope that you have enjoyed my little chart here. I hope that you've enjoyed some of my perspectives. I hope you've learned something, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.